set to roll out a rebranding of the country's tourism campaign. This is after President Marcos approved a 5-year plan to promote and transform the Philippines into a, quote, tourism powerhouse.
It's important to know na walang silver bullet. And always, it's the people na magdadala ng tourism. We have to have a culture of tourism.
The fastest way to kill a bad product is to advertise it. Okay? So kung masama produkto mo, gusto mo mamatay na mabilis, mag-advertise ka.
There's an overarching problem yung access, yung continuity ng rules na pag pumasok, hindi hassle yung tourists.
We need to find out what the tourists are looking for.
Tourism is a driver of development, an engine of economic growth. And just like any other engine, it should be well-oiled and maintained. We have seen how other nations, particularly our Asian neighbors, capitalize on tourism. How can the Philippines do the same and sustain it? We discuss in this episode of the Chiefs. Welcome to the Chiefs. I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5. And for tonight, it's just going to be girl power. We will hold the fort. I'm here with Ami Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star. Ami, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, syempre, magandang topic natin. It's tourism. Dahil alam naman natin ngayon na tapos na yung pandemic, di ba? Even though they were the hardest hit during the pandemic, ngayon, we're seeing revenge travel.
Yes, gusto daw ni President Marcos na gawin tayong tourism powerhouse.
Ayan, yan ang objective. How to become a tourism powerhouse. But, as you have seen in our VTR, di ba? Napakalayo ng ating kailangang tahakin bago tayo makarating doon. Sa airport pa lang Nako po.
Yan ang sabi ng mga marketing people
Yeah.
The best way daw to kill a bad product
is to advertise it.
Is good advertising.
Okay.
Kaya ayusin muna daw yung simula sa airport.
Yeah. In other words, paigihin mo na yung produkto, di ba? Actually, even without advertising, sabi nga nung iba, word of mouth.
Yun ang sabi niya, the best advertising, especially now, digital age.
Yes.
Di ba?
Kailangan, oo, di ba? Kaya ngayon,
I-Instagram mo lang
Tsaka yung mga vloggers pa na yung travelog
Yes.
Oo.
Kaya nga magse-set up nga daw ng free wifi sa 94 travel destinations all over the country para daw encourage mga vloggers to write about. Well, we're hoping na positive yung sasabihin to write about their positive experience, no? And let's hope yung wifi ay maganda.
Kasi talaga, isa yan sa mga setbacks ng kung bakit mas konti ang tourists, no?
Yes.
They know that the signal here is, di ba, very iffy and unstable.
Well, kasama siguro yun dun sa National Tourism Development Plan.
Yes, dapat lang.
Ina-unveil, pero tayo hindi pa natin alam, yung guest natin meron ng kopya.
Really? Okay, that's what we're going to, yan ang ating pag-uusapan. We're going to talk about how to get to the goal of being a tourism powerhouse. And we will be bringing in our guests right after a quick break. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back. Joining our discussion tonight via Zoom is former Tourism Undersecretary Benito Bengson. Mr. Bengson is now the Executive Director of the Philippine Hotel Owners Association. And right here with us in the studio, Alejandra Dading Clemente, founder of Raja Travel Corporation. Good evening and welcome to the Chiefs.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ami, Lucy, and Attorney Dading. Good evening.
Mr. Bengson, kumustahin muna namin. Since revenge travel na daw and we are recovering quite quickly from the pandemic, kumustahin namin, how is the hotel industry doing right now?
In general, the hotel industry is doing much better than 2022. I think that much is obvious. Last year was the turnaround point, no, for the hotels and for the tourism enterprises. But I must point out that we still are a long way off from going back to 2019 levels. So still a lot of work ahead of us.
Kung percentage-wise, mga 50% na pre-pandemic yung business?
No, far from it. I'll give you
Far
some
from it?
figures. No? In the report of the Department of Tourism, we had 2 million foreign visitors in 2022. In 2019, no, pre-pandemic, we had 8.2 million. So we are roughly doing a quarter of the business, no, compared to 2019. And like I said, no, we still have a lot of work ahead of us, and what's going to be crucial will be the return of our major markets, no, particularly the Northeast Asian markets, Korea, Japan, and China. So right now, to answer your question, we are at 25% of the volume, I mean 2022, no, versus 2019.
Pero what about the
20%?
domestic market, Mr. Bengson? Hindi ba sabi nila ang daming nag-staycation and during the pandemic, they basically spurred tourism, no? Hindi ba nakabawi doon?
Malaking bagay yung domestic tourism base natin dahil napakalaki, no. You talk about revenge travel, yes, no. Many of our kababayans who were holed up in the rooms, no, took the opportunity to travel when the restrictions were removed. Ang kagandahan po ng 2023 is this is the first summer where all restrictions have been removed.
Right.
But we also have to remember that other destinations, no, around the world have also opened. So nagkakaroon na rin ng options yung mga ibang Pilipino.
that's
So
true.
ang tanong nga dyan is hanggang kailan ba itong revenge travel? So for the hotels to go back to revenue levels, no, occupancy rates, no, that they enjoyed in 2019, it is important that we start getting back the foreign markets, the leisure markets.
Ayan, that's your area. Miss Clemente, getting back the tourists and sending them out, the travel, your business, kumusta naman po siya?
Well, we're still recovering. In 2022, early month of 2022, most of the travel agencies, interpreters, hotels, and all other establishments started to reopen. And so it was, like starting from zero. Because the 2 years that we have been closed, it's practically zero. And so we were hoping that the government will focus and provide clear direction and focus on what we should do.
Yun na, tatanong, in what way, in what particular areas should they be focusing on right now if they're going to spur tourism as quickly as possible back to where it was before the pandemic?
Well, first, they really have to concentrate on marketing and promotion, which is their main function. That is the function of the Department of Tourism. And unfortunately, the focus is not there. And of course, we are hoping that the promotion will be intensified, particularly in the international market. There is a surge of demand now, especially from Europe and particularly from Italy, Norway, the Scandinavian countries, and Great Britain.
Demand for what? To travel
for
here
coming
or
to the Philippines.
Oh, really?
Coming into
Tayo
the
ng
Philippines.
they're eyeing us as their destination.
because they surf the website, and then
Siargao,
the
mga
one
ganyan.
that is helping us are the influencers and vloggers.
Yes,
Because
yes,
they
that's
see
true.
how beautiful
Yes.
the destinations in the Philippines are.
Okay, so but how much of a help have the social media vloggers been compared to the help that you're getting from the government? I mean, how would you weigh that?
you cannot really measure it, because as far as the Department of Tourism is concerned, they are more on concentrating on markets through participation in the trade shows.
Yes.
But they're not really getting the market. Simply because we're lacking in materials, they're lacking in updated
Information.
video,
Video.
materials, and I don't know whether that's due to lack of budget, because from what I understand, only 20% of the total budget of the Department of Tourism, which normally is 2.3 billion, correct me if I'm wrong, and out of that 20% only goes to promotions, and they have so many attached agencies. So the main function of marketing and promotion is hampered. And then, of course, you have to also consider the development as the development infrastructure, that
Yes.
they should also coordinate with the different agencies of government, like the Department of Public Works, Bureau of Highways, because there are so many destinations, but the accessibility is not really that good. So, surprisingly, most of the Europeans go to the provinces, remote areas.
They
that
much
is
prefer
virgin.
mga isolated, di ba?
Yes.
And parang ako rin, pag nanonood ako sa mga sa YouTube, no, mga vloggers, no, you can tell that they're now actually quite allergic to the same tourist spots that were popular before the pandemic. Kasi nandun lahat ng mga turista, and they're trying to avoid those places.
They're interested only on nature and beaches.
Yes, and exploring our maritime, our marine
Great
wealth and
marine
resources.
wealth,
Iba na yan.
I know, kasi yung mga vloggers, yan ang gusto nila, scuba,
true.
Yes.
diba? Yan ang gusto
You'll be
nila.
surprised when
Yes.
you suddenly watch in TV,
Right, yes.
especially in the States, Suddenly you see beautiful
Well,
Palawan, sa Palawan.
Pero to the credit of the DOT, we're always landing in the top 10 beaches, best beaches in the world. Laging pumuporma naman doon ng Pilipinas. High profile
Well,
na eh.
actually, these, like for example, when they say Boracay has
Yes.
the best, is the best
Right. Palawan,
destination,
yan ang
Palawan, but that is a selection that is being done in their survey.
Yes.
So, but I don't know whether the Department of Tourism has something to do with it. And then if we go to another market, which is the U.S. market,
Yes.
the market that you can only tap are the balikbayans or the Phil-Ams.
Not really the
Not
Americans
really
themselves,
the
no?
mainstream Americans.
Yes.
Simply because it's cheaper to go to the other destinations that are similar to the Philippines, because they only love going to for their holiday, like in the Bahamas,
Yes,
in
Caribbean.
the Caribbean,
That's
you know.
Maldives.
Oo, Maldives.
Maldives.
Yan ang mga talo
I
tayo
was
doon
going to
in
ask
terms
you
of
about that
distance.
kasi last week we had the marketing director of Ateneo and former Senator Gordon. Both of them said, the best way to kill a bad product is good advertising. Ang message nila, ayusin muna daw yung produkto natin. Tanong ko lang sa'yo, do we have a good product that we can sell?
We have products.
Yes.
Whether they're good or not is another thing, because they really need to be more enhanced. As you're mentioning about advertising, we don't have that much funding or budget for advertising. And so, even the materials now that are distributed by the Department of Tourism and the Tourism Promotions Board are not at par with other countries in the region.
Talaga?
We are lacking pa in fact, we the private sector participate in trade shows, and you can see that we're very pathetic because we cannot really come up with beautiful materials.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Mr. Bengson, your reaction to all of this. Do you agree that there's so much less focus that's being given to tourism right now, not just in terms of the budget, but in terms of the full attention, especially to improvement of the product and, of course, marketing? What's your take on it?
Well, I think when you talk about the natural resources of the Philippines, they're much better than what you would find in the rest of the region. But we must always keep in mind that we have to look at it from the customer's perspective. We have to make sure that the entire customer journey is seamless and hassle-free. And that's where the importance of airport infrastructure comes in. One thing that differentiates the Philippines from the other competitors in the region is that we are almost entirely dependent on air traffic, or air accessibility rather, to bring in our tourists. About 98% of our visitors enter the Philippines by air. You have a small percentage that comes by cruise ships. So what does this mean? We have to make sure that the airlines, both foreign and domestic, are able to go back to pre-pandemic levels, go back to the levels that they were offering in 2019. Secondly, is that we have to improve our airports, the gateways, Manila, Cebu, Davao. We've read so many stories about some of the problems that have been experienced
Yes.
in our gateways. When you talk about marketing and promotions, yes, I agree that we have to step up our efforts, not only in the traditional or the core markets, but also the emerging ones, the new one, the opportunity markets. There's been a lengthy discussion on the campaign. I think one thing that we should always keep in mind is that this is an industry campaign. It's important for us to strengthen, to retain the brand equity that we have developed over the years. If you look at our competitors, Thailand has been doing amazing Thailand since the 90s. Malaysia Truly Asia since 1999, Incredible India since 2002. So it's really important that we're able to stay the course and build on the equity that we have earned.
Okay, so on that point, what do you think of more fun? Because we're hearing that it will be changed, no? Do you think that's a good move?
Well, again, two important things. One is that we have to attach a figure to the brand equity. The brand equity, the value that we have earned through the years, by mounting and implementing this campaign. That's the first issue. The second issue is that the stakeholders must be heard. There has to be honest to goodness consultation on whether this campaign should be retained, whether it should be revised or modified. But at the very least, there has to be consultation. The stakeholders must be heard because, like I said, this is not just a DOT campaign. This is an industry campaign.
So is it being done? Kayo ba, are you being consulted at least on this? Kasi, let's face it, every time there's a new government, the first thing that the Department of Tourism does is come up with that slogan.
New slogan.
Laging yun ang first step. And we've been with More Fun in the Philippines for several years. And it has caught on, I have to say. Because that's what the vloggers always say. It's true. It's really more fun here. Do you think it's time to change it? Do you think have you been consulted on it?
No. We strongly feel that branding or campaign is working very well up to now.
More fun.
And it's more fun in the
Yes.
Philippines. And in fact, it has been adapted in so many materials of the foreign travel agencies
Yes.
in their brochures
Right.
to attract the market in
Yes.
their areas. Like as I've said in Europe, because they're very particular with
Beaches.
slogans and campaign. No,
Okay,
what
yeah.
what attracts them is most important. And in the beginning, in the first year, it was difficult to really introduce a new brand. So if you change brand again, it should be something that will be better than the existing one. But for us, we should really keep it until they're ready to come up with a more exciting one.
Have you said this to them? I mean,
Hindi, merong nabanggit ngayon, but we know it's not a tourism project, no? We give the world our best.
yes.
But this is not a tourism slogan. Sinabi na nila, it's a it's the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Creative Communications. Pero it will be incorporated daw into an enhanced tourism branding program. So, we expect na kasama nga yan. We give the world our best, the Philippines.
yes.
Yan. What do you think of that?
But that is not a campaign. That is not a campaign.
not a
What is a
tourist campaign,
campaign?
no?
You know, something that will really entice the tourist to consider the destination, which is the Philippines. You're fighting, Thailand. Their slogan or their brand, their slogan works for how many years, and they never change, And then actually the Department of Tourism introduced first, bisita ko, be my guest, What is that? What does it convey? Because the slogan, branding is something that will really, give
invite
meaning
people, yes.
and entice
Right.
tourists to come.
Oo.
So I think that is that campaign that the Department of Tourism came up with, bisita ko, be my guest.
Teka, na-consult
Hindi ko
na
alam
po
yun,
ba kayo dyan, Mr. Bengson? Kayo ba narinig nyo na yan?
Alam mo, narinig
Bisita
yun.
ko, be my guest na yan.
Yes, we were invited to the launch last year.
Bakit
Bakit ang
hindi
media
namin
wala?
narinig?
Or baka wala tayo ron. So what do you think of that, for example? I mean, let me ask you the same question. Do you think it's a good idea nga to change
Hindi
that
namin alam.
into this bisita mo, be my guest?
No, that's a different. That project is really, it's a platform to tap overseas Filipinos to invite their friends to come over to the Philippines. So it's a special project.
So it's
if it will result in more tourists coming to the country, if it will result in more tourists staying in our hotels, then it should be we should welcome it. But I think the fundamental question on marketing and promotions is, are we going to keep it? Are we going to replace it? And again, I say that we should have
Consultation.
extensive consultation, because this will require all players in the entire value chain of tourism.
What about the hotels? Do you incorporate, because that's what Ms. Clemente said, no? That it's more fun in the Philippines is in their brochures. Hindi nga namin alam pala yun. What about sa marketing of the hotels? Do you include those country slogans when you entice visitors?
Well, in general, we follow the overarching campaign of the government, and More Fun in the Philippines has been included in our materials when we participate in travel exhibitions abroad, and there are some who have kept it all these years. And again, I go back to the concept of brand equity. Obviously, they have seen the value of a certain brand, and they feel that it has raised the position of the Philippines in the global tourism community.
Well, I'll toss the question to you. I asked her about it. I said it's not a tourism slogan, pero mukhang magta-take off doon eh. What do you think of the slogan, we give the world our best? The Philippines.
Well,
Plus
I
some
think
marketing.
the concerned government office has already explained that
Yes.
it is for country branding purposes. It is not to be confused with the tourism. The DOT with the tourism slogan. The DOT has already announced just a couple of days ago that there will be a separate marketing and promotions campaign, and hopefully there will be an opportunity for us in the private sector, specifically from the hotels, to give our inputs on the campaign.
Mr. Bengson, you were once with the tourism department, no? Let me just ask you, if we're talking about the product that we're selling, which is the Philippines, all its tourist destinations, and really even the infrastructure, no? How much of the decisions that go into that product, infrastructure, that's the airport, and then the roads that lead to, and the telco infra, how much of that is actually suggested or vetted by the tourism department? How big a say do you have in those areas of concern when it comes to the product, which is the Philippines as a tourist destination?
The product mix will vary, and it will depend on the market mix or the market portfolio that we are targeting. So, for example, if the identified priority markets are the US, Korea, China, and Japan,
Right.
then necessarily the product offerings will be customized or tailor-fit to what those markets are looking for. If you're talking about long-haul markets, such as, let's say, the Europeans, and as mentioned earlier, they go for the beaches, they go for the nature-based attractions. What is important, again, is the consultation. On the matter of infrastructure, again, we have to keep in mind that we are in a way at a disadvantage because we don't have cross-border travel like what most other countries in ASEAN enjoy, and therefore the airport infrastructure will be very crucial. I was looking at the latest figures for Manila International Airport. Last year they did, I think, about 32 million passengers. And that's still a long way off from the 48 million that they recorded in 2019. I always mention these numbers just to put things in perspective and also to give an idea as to what the full recovery timeline will be for the entire tourism industry in the Philippines, and in our case, for the hotel industry.
Okay, Mr. Bengson, Ms. Clemente, we still have a lot of questions, but we just need to take a short break. We'll continue this conversation after that. Keep it here on the Chiefs. Welcome back. Still with us, Philippine Hotel Owners Association Executive Director Bong Bengson and Dading Clemente of Raja Travel Corporation. Ms. Clemente, this week President Marcos said he wants to turn the country into a tourism powerhouse. And they are unveiling he has approved a national development program for tourism. I think you have a draft of this up to 2028. Now maybe you can tell
22
us
to 20.
20, yes. Maybe you can tell us more about it. You think it's possible? Can we become a tourism powerhouse
in that short period of time?
That we hope will come true. Because in the World Travel Tourism Council, all the statistics comes that tourism is the #1 job generator and the economic engine of growth of the economy of a country.
Yes.
So we are very happy that the president is giving very much importance, but is the Department of Tourism following that path, So, since the National Tourism Development Plan, which is the roadmap for tourism development, has been the best thing that happened now, especially in time for the recovery, then, and no less than the President signed this plan. Therefore, it's imperative for the Department of Tourism to start, laying the groundwork for the implementation, because it sets the goal, the strategic goal for where we're going. What are we going to do? It's product development, marketing, enhancing our training programs. Because what do we want? We want to spread it into the communities so that it will generate jobs. It will contribute to the social improvement of the life of the people. Instead of thinking of going over abroad, they can
Travel within.
they can have the same income that they will be receiving if they go abroad, and the social the social problem will be eliminated. And if the Department of if the leadership, if the leadership, the Department of Tourism will follow the President's pronouncement, then that will really lead to the prosperity of this country.
Yes, agreed. What are the components of that plan? What are the major components?
Well, it's more of setting the goals. What are we supposed to do to really fulfill the full development of tourism?
Can you give us some key points,
What are-
salient points?
Setting the goals, like empowerment of the industry, so that the stakeholders will be empowered to do what is supposed to be done by them. And then going into the key points of what should be done. How much should be given to domestic tourism? How much should be given to international tourism in terms of attention and focus on these? And it's encompassing everything already for a total development. I think this was the product of studies of a private sector. It's a private sector in consultation with government who did this. And so they are the practitioners and the stakeholders in the industry.
But I'm sure, Mr. Bengson, there was such a plan even before, but now that the plan is to be a tourism powerhouse in 4 years, let me ask you, what needs to be done in the short term to get to that goal 4 years from now?
Well, let me make 2 points first. No? I think one is that we're happy that the President has approved it already. The second point that I want to make is that the National Tourism Development Plan is already on its 3rd edition. No? The first one was from 2010 to 2016. The second was from 2017 to 2022. And the one that was recently approved is 2023 to 2028. So in a way, you're building on the gains that we achieved from the first from the earlier National Tourism Development Plans. The fundamentals must still be addressed, and again, you talk about ensuring a hassle-free arrival, departure experience. We have to make sure also that connectivity within the islands is improved. But on top of what has been mentioned, I think two other things that we have to look into would be sustainability, and I know this is a big word that has been used left and right, but on the part of the hotels, what we are doing now is we're actually introducing green tourism and sustainable practices. No? It's not only because for optics, but we really see the value of introducing these practices because in the long term, this will help reduce our costs. Secondly, is that we also realize that the modern day travelers are looking for green accommodation establishments. So they are starting to patronize those who do their share in helping push for sustainable development. The other thing is we have to take note of the increasingly important role of technology. Okay, and again, on the part of the hotels, we are introducing self-check-in kiosks, etc. Things that will take into consideration, things that will adjust, to the shifting preferences and behavior of consumers. So overall, when you talk about implementing the National Tourism Development Plan, it's very important to continue to look at the fundamentals. And secondly, is really to take note of what the market is looking for. The competition is very fierce, particularly here in Southeast Asia. And I always mention that our neighbors actually opened up their borders, ahead of us. So we have a bit of catching up to do.
Mr. Bengson, Ms. Clemente talked about empowerment. How might the government empower your sector of tourism, the hotels, in the near term by way of economic post-pandemic recovery?
Let me cite some specifics. The room inventory in the Philippines, in the city destinations like Manila and Cebu, is very much lower than what you would find in the city destinations in Southeast Asia. And the same thing goes for the resort destinations. The room inventory in Bali, in Phuket, is much higher than what you would find in Cebu, Bohol, Boracay. So what is needed is for government to provide a more conducive framework for investments. Of course, the CREATE law is there already. We feel, however, that there are still some elements of the incentive framework that should be given, more attention. I think overall, what's important is to recognize the crucial role, of the hotels, as the biggest investors in the tourism industry. We have to get more rooms in the main gateways. We have to get more rooms in the resort destinations to stay competitive.
What about your sector, Ms. Clemente? I'm sure that digital technology has affected travel bookings.
Well, in a way, technology has really affected the middlemen, which is us. Because as before, we are the ones that supplies the business to the hotels.
That's right.
But the hotels, because of the wonders of technology, they went online. So it's very difficult for our sector to already get rooms because they give priority to their online.
Yes.
And I'm talking from my experience as a middleman, and that's the only thing, and that applies not only with the hotels, all the suppliers of services like airlines.
Right.
When you go to the online, it's cheaper to go to the online
That's
than to go to us.
Of course,
so
yes.
that is the ill effect to our
So how are you
sector.
adjusting to that nga ba?
Well, it depends. If you are a big company, you have more advantage because they still go to you. But I'm talking of the whole,
Yes.
of the whole sector
Yes.
of travel agencies and
Right.
tour operators,
Oo.
where they are really affected. Like, for example, the travel agent abroad will go straight to the hotel. The hotels give them a better rates, or will use the online rates.
Right.
Oh, it's something that did not happen when we
I know.
started tourism.
So,
But that is technology. What
yes,
can we do?
That's true.
We-
So
it's
how is
driven.
your sector nga adapting to this? I mean, are they? I mean, what's the attrition rate? Are we talking about smaller travel agencies now falling by the wayside here?
As a former federation president, the umbrella organization of all the tourism industry associations, I was always batting for the holding of a national tourism congress. So all of these things can be sorted out because we are all partners. We're all partners of the industry. And what is our goal? To really help the economy through tourism. Because as I've said a while ago, under the WTTC Council findings, tourism is the number one economic
Driver.
But
What about yes? What about you, Mr. Bengson? How has this shift to the digital practice of travelers now affected you? Is this to your advantage?
Well, we see it from a positive standpoint. No? The bookings are coming in through various platforms. Of course, we still have the traditional
Walk-in.
medium, which is through the travel agents. Of course, we also are using some of the online platforms. But I think on the part of the services and amenities, we have been quick to make adjustments. No? Earlier, I mentioned about the self check-in kiosks, etc. But these are not the only innovations or creative adjustments that we have made. No, we realize that the consumers are changing their preferences. For example, we see greater demand for healthier or for organic cuisine. We also are seeing some trends towards workation. I mean, people are checking in our hotels.
That's
They're
true.
doing their Zoom meetings, etc. So we have come up with workation setups. There are some people who travel with their pets, and we've
Oo
also
nga.
adjusted to this. No, we
Oo
have
nga.
pet-friendly rooms.
Yes.
And so on and so forth. So we realize that the changes, that the preferences are shifting, and we just have to make the adjustments quick enough.
What about yung mga Airbnb? Kasi karamihan ngayon ng mga travelers also, di ba? Abroad, they're looking for Airbnbs. They're cheaper. And
Not so
even
much.
here in the Philippines,
No,
no?
really.
I find that ako personally, kung minsan ang hinahanap ko na Airbnb eh. You feel more at home and then it's generally cheaper. What are your thoughts on this trend?
In the Airbnb is not that popular in the Philippines, but in other countries, especially in the US, where hotels are very expensive,
Right.
they go to Airbnb. But here in the Philippines, it's not yet that popular. And there are so many hotels are sprouting now, and most of them are small hotels,
Boutique,
middle
no?
hotels,
Yes.
boutique hotels, and of course the international chain hotels are the most difficult to deal with as far as we middlemen are concerned.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Because they are revenue management. Their main consideration is revenue management. They want, of course, a higher yield.
Yes, of
a
course.
higher yield. That's why they went into online. And then on the online, they can already forecast the occupancy
Right.
of the hotel. Now, talking of the present situation, most of the bookings coming from abroad are outside of the Metro Manila. So the hotels in Manila do not feel the impact already of the Philippines as a destination, And now, here in Metro Manila, the problem now is most of the bookings are going to BGC, Bonifacio, and Makati, and of course the Resort World hotels.
The big ones, no?
Manila is no longer the attractive place
that it
for
used to
tourists
be.
to come,
Oh.
simply because it needs to be polished. All the attractions are there, but so many homeless and in the Ermita area.
Nako.
So it's good for the hotels outside of Metro Manila, unless the establishments in Manila will come together and work out how they can improve the city.
Mr. Bengson, if you have a priority to-do list, yung madali lang madali lang implement to enhance your business, what will you suggest to the government?
Well, for us, like I said, for us to go back to the revenue levels that we were enjoying in 2019, we really have to bring back the core markets, the major markets. And again, this will require a lot of marketing and promotions. We have to get back the Korean market, the Japanese market, the Chinese market. We have to continue to go after lucrative markets, long haul, particularly in Europe. The airport experience obviously has to be improved. I think we'll leave it at that. And I think looking at it long term, I will go back to the importance of coming up with an attractive investment package, incentive package, that will encourage more investments in hotels.
But you think it's possible that we can become a tourism powerhouse compared to our neighbors that are, I think, already powerhouses in this sector?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We have the potential. We remain optimistic that the Philippines can be a very competitive destination. But to put things in perspective, also we have to realize again, our neighbors are at a much higher level. They opened their borders much earlier than we did, so we really have a lot of catching up to do. Moving forward, what's important is that we continue to look at the issues and concerns that have been raised by the private sector.
Can we catch up, Miss Clemente?
Actually, to really come to realization that we will become a powerhouse, they have to make transformational change. What do I mean by transformational change? Look at the structure of the Department of Tourism and a review of the existing law creating the Tourism Government Office. I think if they will really concentrate on the main function of the Department of Tourism, which is formulation of policies, actions, and integration with the local government, because remember, the powers to regulate establishments, tourism enterprises have been transferred and devolved to the local government.
Yes.
So how could the Department of Tourism really improve and enhance the development of tourism?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think there is a total review that should be made or undertaken to see the structure of the Department of Tourism, because they have 2.3 billion peso budget. But how do they spend? Is that enough? So funding is still the most important to really be able to achieve your goals and objective. Goals and objective is the one that dictates the realization of declaration of powerhouse.
Yes, actually, it's that devolution that's now main challenge to all agencies of government, no? And that has to be defined really.
Yes.
How will that be
Local government
implemented?
will not give it up.
Yes.
Pero Mr. Bengson, hindi ba there's yung system of classifying hotels, yung parang seal of good housekeeping. How is that coming along? That's DOTD, but that's not local government.
That's spearheaded by the Department of Tourism.
Yes.
The Philippine Hotel Owners Association and the Department of Tourism are jointly reviewing the national accommodation standards. Basically, what we want to do is to upgrade those standards so that we become more globally competitive. No? From a practical perspective, what it means is that if you're staying in a 5-star hotel in Manila, it should be the same kind of
5-star
experience that you will find in a 5-star hotel in Bangkok or in Singapore. So we're upgrading it now. We have a checklist, that will come up with the rating, for the touch points, arrival, departure, the restaurants, the bedroom, the toilets, etc. So we're working on it with the Department of Tourism.
Well, marami pa sana akong question about that rating system, but it will have to wait for another episode. We've run out of time. Ms. Dading Clemente, thank you very much. Mr. Bengson, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Bengson.
Thank you.
Ma'am.
And that's it for the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. I'm Ami Pamintuan.
And I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez. We are One News, all sides, all the time.